Am I the a-hole for taking my ex's inheritance after she betrayed me? I, 29, have been through hell the last couple of months, and I don't know if I'm in the wrong or if I'm justified in what I've done. To make this understandable, I need to explain the situation with Emily, 28F, my ex-girlfriend. I met Emily 5 years ago and we had a whirlwind romance. We were deeply in love, or at least I thought we were. We talked about getting married, having kids, building a life together. But somewhere along the way things changed and I didn't see it coming. The entire relationship had been emotionally intense from the start, but I ignored the little red flags. I ignored the way she would always pull away when I needed support. I ignored her constant dismissals of my family, and I ignored the fact that her mood swings often felt like deliberate manipulation. It wasn't until the end of last year that I realized what was going on. After a huge argument, Emily confessed that she had been cheating on me for almost the entire duration of our relationship. She told me that she'd been seeing someone else, Greg, 31M, a guy from her work, for over 2 years. I was crushed. To make matters worse, she had the audacity to tell me that Greg had been the one she was really in love with all along, but she was too afraid to break up with me because she didn't want to hurt me. I don't know how I stayed composed during the conversation, but I ended the relationship immediately. But that wasn't the worst part. As I was trying to pick up the pieces of my life, I discovered that Emily had been manipulating me the entire time we were together. It wasn't just about the cheating, it was everything. She had used me for stability, for emotional validation, for support when things with Greg weren't going well. She'd been draining me emotionally while stringing me along with false promises about our future. I was devastated. Not only had I lost the love of my life, but I had lost myself in the process. After the breakup, Emily tried to reach out to me a few times, begging for forgiveness. She tried to apologize, saying she didn't know how things had gotten so messed up, but I refused to speak with her. I blocked her on social media, changed my number, and cut all ties. I needed space to heal and get over the trauma she caused me. A couple of months went by and I was starting to feel like I was moving on, but then I received a call from Emily's brother, Dylan, 33M. He told me that Emily had passed away in a tragic accident. She had been in a car crash and didn't survive. I was devastated by the news, but also in some weird way relieved. I had no feelings of anger or hatred left for her, but I was definitely shocked by the finality of it all. A week later, Dylan reached out again. This time, it wasn't about condolences. He said Emily had left something for me in her will. It turns out in the months leading up to her death, Emily had been working on her will and had made the decision to leave me a significant portion of her inheritance, including her family's estate. I was shocked. We weren't even together at the time of her death and we hadn't spoken in months. Why would she leave me anything? Dylan told me that Emily had written in her will that she wanted me to have everything because she felt guilty for how things ended between us. She said that I was the only person who truly loved her and that I deserved something for all the pain she caused me. It was a strange mixture of guilt and an attempt to right her wrongs. The will also specified that the inheritance would include her share of a large family estate, a home that had been passed down through generations. Dylan made it clear that he wasn't happy about Emily's decision and that he would contest the will, but legally it seemed I had a strong case. I was torn. On one hand, I felt like I didn't want anything to do with the legacy of someone who had betrayed me so deeply. The house, the inheritance, the wealth, it all felt tainted. But on the other hand, Emily's family estate was worth millions, and I couldn't help but wonder if this was my opportunity to finally set myself up for a better future. I was struggling financially after the breakup. My job didn't pay well and my mental health had suffered after everything with Emily. I needed something to change in my life. Dylan was relentless. He called me every day, trying to convince me to reject the inheritance. He said it was a slap in the face to the family, especially since they had no idea about Emily's infidelity and how she had manipulated me. He said that accepting the inheritance would make me complicit in her deceit, but I didn't feel like it was about that anymore. I wasn't the one who had lied. I wasn't the one who had hurt anyone. This was about me finally getting something good. After everything I had been through, after much deliberation, I decided to accept the inheritance. I didn't go public with it. I didn't flaunt it. I just took what was rightfully left to me in Emily's will and moved forward with my life. I paid off my debts, used some of the money to invest in a better future, and kept a low profile. But Dylan didn't stop. He tried to sue me, claiming that Emily was mentally unstable when she made the will, but I had a legal team behind me, and they shut him down. Now, I'm struggling with guilt. I've always believed that money shouldn't dictate your life, that it wasn't worth destroying relationships over. But at the same time, Emily's actions nearly destroyed me. She had the audacity to manipulate and betray me, and now, in the twisted irony of fate, I was the one who was handed the last laugh. But was I wrong to accept what she left me? Was I wrong to take the inheritance from someone who had treated me so horribly? Am I the a-hole for accepting my ex's inheritance, knowing how much she hurt me and the family? Am I the a-hole for exposing my best friend's secret, even though it could ruin her life? I've been friends with Maya, 28F, for over 10 years. We met in high school, and we clicked instantly. We've always been there for each other, through all the ups and downs of life. She's been my best friend, my confidant, the person I trust the most. We've been through everything together: family struggles, breakups, bad jobs, and good ones. We've shared our deepest secrets, and I thought our bond was unbreakable, that is, until last week when everything went to hell. Maya has always had a complicated relationship with her family. Her parents, mid-50s, are very strict, old-fashioned, and don't really understand her lifestyle. She's always had a bit of a rebellious streak, and I've been the one to listen to her frustrations about them. Her parents never accepted her career path or her choices in life. They expected her to follow their traditional views, which led to a lot of tension between them over the years. Recently, she started dating a guy, Ryan, 32M, who seemed perfect for her. He was kind, successful, and well-liked. He treated her like a queen, and for the first time in a long time I saw Maya genuinely happy. She introduced him to me and the rest of our friends, and everyone seemed to think they were a perfect match. But then, things started to seem a little off. It was subtle at first. Maya started cancelling plans with me more often. She became distant, and when I did see her, she didn't seem like herself. Her usual bubbly personality was replaced with stress, anxiety, and this strange sense of tension. When I asked her what was going on, she brushed it off, saying everything was fine, and that she was just busy with work and her relationship. I respected her boundaries, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. One night, I was over at her place hanging out when she got a phone call. She went into her bedroom to take it, and I could hear her voice trembling. At first I thought she was just dealing with a work thing, but then the conversation took a strange turn. I overheard her saying things like, "I'm not ready yet. I don't know if I can do this. And what if they find out? And I can't keep lying to him anymore." Naturally, I was curious. I didn't want to invade her privacy, but I couldn't help myself. When she came back into the room, I pretended like I hadn't overheard anything. I didn't want to pressure her into telling me something she wasn't ready to share, but I was worried. After all, she had been distant for weeks, and I didn't know what was going on in her life. A few days later, she confided in me about what was really going on, and my world turned upside down. Maya told me that she was pregnant. Ryan was the father, and she didn't know how to tell him or anyone else, but that wasn't the biggest shock. The biggest shock was that she had lied to him about it. She had been seeing someone else for the past few months, a man named Jake, 30M, someone she met through work. She'd been having an affair with him, and she had just found out that Jake was the real father. I was floored. I had no idea that Maya was capable of hiding something like this. She told me that she had been in a deeply toxic relationship with Ryan for the last 6 months, where she felt suffocated and trapped. He was controlling, manipulative, and demanded constant attention. She said she was afraid that if she told him the truth about the affair, it would destroy her relationship with him and his family, not to mention her reputation. She said she didn't want anyone to know about Jake because it would ruin everything she had built with Ryan. She didn't know what to do, so she kept it all a secret. I didn't know how to respond. I was angry at first, not just because she lied to Ryan, but because she was jeopardizing the life of an innocent child. She said she was planning on keeping the pregnancy a secret from Ryan, at least for now. She was going to try to get rid of the evidence and pretend like nothing had happened. She kept asking me for advice, for support, but I was torn. Part of me wanted to help her, to be there for her no matter what. But another part of me felt like I couldn't be complicit in such a huge lie. I knew that Ryan deserved the truth, no matter how painful it might be. And what about Jake? Was he going to just be left in the dark while Maya pretended like he didn't exist? The situation was messy, and I knew it was going to explode if it wasn't handled correctly. I made a decision that I now regret. I told Maya that I couldn't keep this secret, that I couldn't let her destroy her life and Ryan's life without consequences. I told her that I was going to tell Ryan the truth, because he deserved to know. She begged me not to, pleading with me to keep it between us. But I felt like the lies were starting to suffocate me, and I had to make it right. The next day, I called Ryan. I met him at a coffee shop and I told him everything. I told him about the affair, about the pregnancy, and about Jake. His face went pale, and I could see the heartbreak in his eyes. He couldn't believe it. He asked me why I didn't tell him sooner, why I didn't stop Maya before things went too far. Ryan confronted Maya later that day and things spiraled out of control. The entire situation blew up in a way I never could have imagined. Maya accused me of betraying her, of ruining her life. She said I was selfish and cruel for exposing her, that I didn't understand what she was going through. Ryan was heartbroken, but he also said that he could never trust Maya again. He felt completely blindsided. I haven't heard from Maya since that day. She cut me out of her life, and I know she's furious with me. I don't regret telling Ryan the truth, but I feel guilty for destroying my best friend's life. I've been friends with Maya for so long, and now everything is in shambles. I don't know if I did the right thing. I did what I thought was right. I couldn't let her live this lie. I couldn't watch her tear her own life apart. But now I'm questioning if I was wrong for telling Ryan. Did I betray her trust? Was I selfish for thinking about Ryan's right to know instead of supporting my friend? Am I the a-hole for exposing my best friend's secret even though it could ruin her life? Am I the a-hole for hiding the truth about my fiancé's past from his family and my own? I'm in a situation that's eating away at me, and I honestly don't know if I've crossed a line or if I'm just protecting the people I love. 2. Give some context. I'm 27F engaged to David, 30 Mema, the man I've been with for the past 3 years. Our relationship has been wonderful for the most part, full of love, laughter, and shared goals for the future. We've been talking about getting married for over a year now, and I thought we were in a good place, so I agreed when David proposed last month. Everything was perfect, until I learned something that completely changed everything. About 6 months ago, I started noticing some strange things. David was acting differently, distant, secretive at times, avoiding certain topics in conversation. I tried not to pry, but when you're planning a wedding, you want to be sure that everything is out in the open. One night, I went through his things just to look for some wedding planning stuff when I came across a letter. It was addressed to him from a law firm. The letter was dated only a few months earlier, and it seemed to be related to a legal matter. At first I tried to ignore it, but curiosity got the better of me, and I opened it. To my shock, the letter detailed an ongoing criminal case involving David. I read further, and the details were harrowing. Apparently, he had been involved in a hit-and-run accident years ago when he was 22. The accident had caused severe injuries to a woman, and David had fled the scene, never reporting the incident. The letter described how he had been under investigation for months, and though he had not been charged yet, the case was still pending. I was absolutely floored. I had no idea that David had this in his past. He had never mentioned anything about it, and we had talked about our pasts extensively before getting serious. He had told me about his struggles in his early 20s, about his partying days, his time living recklessly. But this was something completely different. This wasn't just a mistake, then this was a serious crime. A crime that could affect his future and ours if it ever came to light. I confronted him the next day, and he was immediately defensive. He admitted to the accident, but he said that it had been a terrible mistake. He was young, scared, and not in his right mind at the time. He had panicked and left the scene because he was terrified of the consequences. He told me he had been racked with guilt ever since, but he had never come forward to report himself because of the fear of what would happen to his future. He said the woman he hit had recovered, and though she pressed charges, the case had never gone to trial. I had no idea what to say. I was devastated. This wasn't just a minor indiscretion. This was a life-altering event. It was something that could and probably would come back to haunt him. But here's where I'm torn. David begged me to keep this secret. He said that he had been living with this guilt for years and that coming clean now would destroy everything we had worked for. He swore to me that he had changed, that he wasn't the same person anymore. He told me that if this came to light, it would ruin his life, his career, and the future we were planning together. At first, I told him I needed time to process, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized how much this could affect, not just him, but me, my family, and our future children. I felt like I was stuck between a rock and a hard place. If I told his family, they would probably disown him, and if I told my family, there would be no way we could move forward with the wedding. But keeping this secret felt wrong. It felt like I was helping him hide a part of his past that could ultimately destroy everything we had built. It wasn't just about him anymore. It was about the life we were supposed to share. So I made the decision. I didn't tell anyone, not his family, not mine. I told him I would support him, but only if he promised never to do something like that again. I told him that he needed to live with the consequences of his actions, but that I wasn't going to be the one to expose him. We continued planning our wedding, and I kept his secret. The guilt ate at me every day, but I convinced myself that it was for the best. David was my fiancé, the person I was supposed to build a life with. I couldn't ruin everything over something that happened years ago, right? But a month ago, my sister, 25F, found out. She and I are very close, and we talk about everything. I don't know how, but she got wind of what had happened, either through gossip or someone else telling her. She came to me and confronted me. She asked me why I hadn't told her what David had done, and why I was still planning to marry him. I was furious at first. I didn't want to get into it. But my sister insisted that I couldn't ignore something so serious. She said that this was a deal-breaker, that a hit-and-run was unforgivable. I argued that he had changed, that he was a different person now, but my sister wouldn't let it go. She said that if I loved her, I would tell the truth to my family, to everyone, that David needed to own up to what he had done. The problem is, I knew if I told my family it would be the end of my relationship with David. My mum would be devastated. My dad would probably disown him. My sister's opinion could make or break everything. I love David, but this was a massive secret. I told my sister that I couldn't tell anyone, that it was his past, and it didn't define who he was today. But she didn't back down. She said that I was enabling him, that I was lying to myself and everyone around me. Now things are tense between my sister and me. She said she can't support the wedding if David isn't honest about what he did. She keeps telling me that I'm being selfish for protecting him, and that my family deserves to know the truth. I've been keeping this secret for so long, but now I don't know what to do. Do I tell my family and risk ruining everything? Do I betray David's trust and end my relationship with him? Or do I keep pretending everything's fine and hope no one finds out? Am I the a-hole for keeping my fiancé's secret, even though it could destroy my family and my future? Am I the a-hole for keeping my sister's secret, even though it could destroy my family? I'm struggling with this right now, and I don't know if I'm doing the right thing or if I'm just being selfish, so I figured I'd ask for some perspective. I, 28M, have a sister, Emily, 25F, and we've always been very close, almost inseparable growing up. We were the kind of siblings who told each other everything, who would stay up late whispering about our fears and dreams. Our parents weren't perfect, but they loved us in their way. I always felt that Emily and I had a bond that no one could break. However, everything changed a year ago. It all started when Emily came to me one night and asked if we could talk, in private. She seemed agitated, anxious. Something was clearly wrong. I was immediately concerned. I thought maybe something had happened at work or in her personal life, but I never could have prepared myself for what she was about to tell me. She sat down and started with the words, "I need you to promise me that no matter what I tell you, you won't tell anyone. Not Mom, not Dad, no one. Please, please promise." I agreed without hesitation. We'd always been able to trust each other. I thought whatever it was, it couldn't be that bad. But then she told me something that still haunts me. She had been having an affair with our father. I was floored. It didn't make sense. Emily was the one person I never imagined could do something like this. Our dad, 50M, had always been a loving father. He wasn't perfect, he was distant at times, prone to anger, but he loved us. I never saw any signs that would indicate something like this could happen. Emily said the affair had started when she was 22, right after she had graduated from college. At first it was just a one-time thing after a fight with her boyfriend, but it spiraled. They'd been carrying on for nearly 2 years. My world felt like it shattered in an instant. I asked her how it even started, how she could let it go on, how our dad could do something like that. She told me that it all began innocently enough. She'd been living at home after college, looking for a job, and my dad had been going through his own issues. He was frustrated with work, tired of our mother, who was always busy with her business, and seemed to turn to Emily for emotional support. He was there for her when she felt lonely. She admitted that he was kind, sweet, and attentive in ways that our mom hadn't been for years. She said she felt wanted, needed. It didn't excuse what happened, but it made her feel something that, at the time, she thought was love. She admitted it was stupid, that it was a huge mistake, but by the time she realized how deep it went, it was too late. She couldn't stop, and here's the kicker. She begged me not to tell anyone because she was terrified that if our mom found out, it would destroy the entire family. She told me she had broken it off with our father, but the guilt, the shame, it was eating her alive. She said she couldn't look our mom in the eye anymore. I didn't know what to say. I wanted to scream, to confront our dad, to tell the world what had happened, but Emily begged me to be her safe space, to hold on to her secret, to protect her. I felt so much rage and betrayal, but I also couldn't turn my back on her. She was my sister. She was clearly devastated, and in the end I made the choice to keep her secret. I promised her I wouldn't tell anyone, not even our mother, and we went about our lives, pretending like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. I tried to bury the guilt. I didn't speak to our dad about it, though every time I saw him I couldn't shake the anger I felt. I kept thinking about how his betrayal would affect not just Emily, but everyone who loved him. My mom, his co-workers, the friends who thought he was a stand-up guy. It felt like the foundation of our entire family was built on lies. Every family. To event, every holiday gathering felt suffocating, like we were all wearing masks. But then last week it all exploded. My mom, 49F, found out. She discovered an old text message on my father's phone that confirmed everything. I wasn't there when it happened, but from what I was told, my mom was hysterical. She confronted my father, demanding the truth, and he confessed. He didn't try to deny it. He didn't try to apologize. According to my mom, he seemed almost indifferent. The confrontation didn't go as expected. There was no remorse, no regret, just cold acknowledgement. The next day, my mum called me. She was in a rage, devastated, completely shattered. She wanted to know everything. I couldn't lie to her anymore. I had to tell her. So I did. I confessed that I knew. I told her that Emily had confided in me, that she had made me promise not to say anything. I told her I hadn't betrayed her trust, even though I felt sick about it. My mom's reaction was worse than I could have imagined. She screamed at me. She called me a coward for not telling her sooner. She accused me of choosing my sister over her. She said I had let her live in a lie for months and that I had betrayed her trust as much as Emily had betrayed all of us. And then she told me, "You are as guilty as she is." I couldn't argue with her. I felt like I was losing everything. My family was collapsing. My mother was in pieces. My father was distant and cold, and Emily, she hasn't spoken to me since that night. She blames me for everything. She says I ruined her life, that I've exposed her in the worst way possible. I'm a part of the mess, and now I've lost everyone. I didn't know what to do. I never wanted to destroy my family. I just wanted to protect my sister. But now, in trying to protect her, I've lost everything that mattered to me. So, Reddit, am I the a-hole for keeping my sister's secret, even though it has torn my family apart? Am I the a-hole for taking my sister's inheritance when I've always been the black sheep of the family? This is something that has been eating me up for months, and now that everything has come to a head, I'm hoping I can get some perspective on whether or not I'm completely in the wrong. I, 35M, have one sibling, Amanda, 32F. We've had a complicated relationship for as long as I can remember. We were never close growing up. She was always the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. I was the troublemaker, the disappointment. My parents, now both in their early 60s, were strict, and from a young age they made it clear that Amanda was their pride and joy. She was the one who followed the rules, got straight A's, went to an Ivy League school, and eventually got married to a man with a good family and a solid career. Meanwhile, I was the kid who skipped school, got arrested a couple of times, in my teens, and ended up dropping out of college. I got into the wrong crowd, made bad decisions, and overall I felt like the black sheep of the family. I never fit in with Amanda and my parents, and for a long time I was fine with that. I went on my own way, but the rift between me and Amanda grew over the years. We barely spoke after my late 20s, except for the occasional forced family gathering where I felt out of place. I never felt good enough for them, and I stopped trying. My relationship with Amanda was polite but strained, and we never really got into any personal conversations. It was just surface-level pleasantries. A year ago, my father passed away unexpectedly. It hit my mom hard, but honestly, it didn't affect me as much as I thought it would. We weren't close. In fact, I hadn't been that involved with the family for years. My parents were always disappointed in me, and I could never shake that feeling, even as an adult. But when my dad died, something changed. I started getting these odd feelings, realizing I was going to be the one left with the responsibility of caring for my mum, because Amanda was busy with her own life. I took it upon myself to start calling her more often, taking her out to lunch, trying to re-establish some sort of bond, even though I never expected anything in return. Then came the reading of my father's will. It was nothing like I expected. So I figured that since Amanda was the perfect daughter, she would get everything. I didn't care about the money, honestly, but I thought that was just how it would go. Instead, I was left with half of everything. My mum's house, my father's estate, all of it. Amanda got some sentimental items, but nothing of any significant value. She was livid. She yelled at me in front of everyone. My mother was silent, completely stunned. I had no idea what was going on, but I tried to act calm and just took everything at face value. I thought it was some sort of mistake, that my dad had made some error in his will. But no, the lawyer confirmed it. I was entitled to half of everything. I was the one my father had named as his primary heir. It was all legal. I'll admit that I did feel a sense of vindication at first. It was the first time in my life that I felt like I was finally getting something my parents had always withheld from me. That maybe, just maybe, I had finally proved that I was worth something. But then the guilt hit me. Amanda was furious, and in her anger she said some harsh things. She told me that I wasn't worthy of the inheritance, that I had done nothing to earn it, and that this was just another way my parents had failed her. It stung, but at the time I brushed it off. After all, Amanda had always been the perfect child, the one who was supposed to get everything. So why not me? For the next few months, the tension between me and Amanda grew. She would call, leaving messages about how unfair it was, how she was the one who had always been there for my parents, how I had been absent, irresponsible, and reckless with my life. She accused me of exploiting my father's death for financial gain and said I was stealing her future by taking the inheritance. I told her she was being dramatic, that this wasn't about her or me, this was about my father's decision. She refused to talk to me for weeks, But the situation took another turn when my mother got sick. My mum was diagnosed with cancer, and suddenly the inheritance became a major topic of discussion. Amanda started saying that I should do the right thing and give her a portion of the inheritance because she was the one who would be caring for our mother. She said that she couldn't afford to take care of Mom on her own without some financial help from me. She made it sound like I was selfish for not offering to split things more fairly, that if I really cared about our mother, I would share the inheritance with her. It felt like a guilt trip, and honestly, I wasn't sure how to respond. I didn't want to make things worse between us, but I also didn't feel like I had to give her anything. Then came the bombshell. Amanda threatened to cut ties with me if I didn't help her financially. She said she couldn't keep doing everything for our mom if I didn't step up. I tried to explain to her that I had already given my share, that I was taking care of my own responsibilities too, but she wasn't hearing any of it. She said I was abandoning her, that I was selfish and that I didn't deserve the inheritance I'd been given. This hurt, because I had thought we could work together, but now it felt like she was trying to manipulate me into giving up what was rightfully mine. At the end of the day, I didn't give her any of the inheritance, and Amanda is still furious with me. She's made it clear that she no longer wants a relationship with me unless I do the right thing and split the inheritance. My mother doesn't seem to know what to think, and I can't even look her in the eye anymore because of the tension. So now I'm asking, am I the a-hole for taking the inheritance that my parents left me, even though I've always been the black sheep of the family? Am I wrong for not giving my sister a portion of it, especially since she's been more involved with my mum in recent years? Or am I just a selfish jerk who's too prideful to do the right thing? Am I the a-hole for ruining my sister's wedding by exposing a family secret I was supposed to take to the grave, throw away because some of my family members know my main Reddit? I, 28F, am the oldest of 4 siblings, my sister Jess, 26F, my brother Kyle, 24M, and our youngest sister Hannah, 21F. My parents, who divorced when I was 12, had a very messy split involving infidelity, lies, and a huge custody battle that fractured our family for years. My mum had an affair, and my dad never let us forget it. Eventually, we grew up and tried to piece things back together. Kind of. The thing is, I've been holding on to a secret that I thought I'd never share, one that was told to me when I was 17, under the promise I'd keep it buried, and for over a decade I did. But at my sister's wedding, under circumstances I couldn't have predicted, it all came pouring out, and now I'm being called an a-hole for it. Here's the full story. Jess and I were always close growing up, until around her senior year of high school when she started acting different. She got super tight with my mum, borderline cold with my dad, and began distancing herself from Kyle and me. I always chalked it up to teenage angst and her being the golden child. My mom always favored her, and we all saw it. Fast forward to a few months ago. Jess was getting married to her fiancé, Andrew, a sweet, soft-spoken guy who clearly adored her. The wedding was huge, 200+ people, multiple events, expensive as hell. My mum was co-hosting with Jess's new in-laws, and she was treating it like her wedding. She kept giving speeches about the power of love and integrity, and how true love always finds a way, which was hilarious considering her own marriage history. Anyway, I was maid of honor, and I was doing my best to keep things on track, despite the rising tension between my dad and my mom's side. My dad had remarried a woman named Elaine, and she's actually lovely, but my mum treats her like a homewrecker, even though she's the one who cheated. Here's where things start going off the rails. At the rehearsal dinner, there was an emotional moment where Jess stood up and gave this long toast thanking everyone who has supported her, but she pointedly didn't mention our dad, not once. She even went so far as to call my mum her only real parent. That hit hard. My dad didn't say anything, but I saw him clench his jaw and stare at his plate. Elaine looked uncomfortable. I confronted Jess later, privately, and asked what the hell that was about. She said, "You know why? You and I both know he's not even my real dad." My blood ran cold because, yes, I knew that. I'd known that since I was 17, when my mom told me one night during a fight. She was crying, hysterical, and told me that Jess was actually the result of her affair. The man she'd had the affair with, a co-worker, had moved across the country shortly after, and never claimed paternity. My mom swore me to secrecy, said it would destroy everything if anyone found out. She said she'd told Jess when she turned 18, but had begged her not to tell anyone else. I never brought it up again. But hearing Jess throw it in my face, like that, it felt cruel. Like she wanted to hurt our dad, a man who raised her like she was his own, who paid for her education, showed up to every recital, who taught her to drive and stayed up late helping her with homework, who cried at her high school graduation. That man, our dad, was being erased. I tried to reason with her. I said, He may not be your biological father, but he is your dad. Don't you think he deserves better than this? She just shrugged and said, he lied to me my whole life. He's not family. I was stunned and furious, but I didn't say anything to anyone. I figured I'd just get through the wedding and move on, except things escalated the next day at the reception. During the father-daughter dance, Jess had her mom escort her onto the floor instead. She gave this speech, clearly pre-written, about how she wanted to honor the person who raised her with honesty and love. The whole room went silent. My dad got up and walked out. That's when I snapped. I followed him outside, and he was sitting on a bench staring off. I sat beside him, and for the first time in my life, I saw him cry. He said, I guess I was never enough for her. I don't know what came over me, but I said, it's not about you. She found out about the affair, about her bio-dad. He looked at me like I'd punched him. What are you talking about? He asked. I realized then my mom had never told him. He had no idea Jess wasn't his biological daughter. I panicked. I tried to walk it back, but it was too late. He pressed me. I broke down and told him everything. That mom had the affair, that Jess was the result, that she told me when I was a teen and begged me not to tell. That Jess found out at 18 and had been holding a grudge ever since. My dad looked like the ground had vanished under his feet. He didn't say anything else. He just stood up and walked back into the reception. I begged him not to make a scene. But he marched up to the mic, right as the best man was about to speak, and said he had something to say. I'll never forget it. He said, I want to congratulate Jess and Andrew, but I also want to thank my ex-wife for finally revealing the truth. I always thought Jess was my daughter. I loved her like she was. Turns out I was the only one in the dark. Gasps, silence, confusion. My mom turned ghost white. Jess looked like she'd been slapped. He put the mic down and left. All hell broke loose. The rest of the wedding was chaos. My mom was sobbing, yelling at me for telling him. Jess screamed at me in front of everyone. Andrew looked horrified. Guests were whispering and leaving early. The reception basically died on the spot. Later that night, I got texts from family members saying I'd ruined everything, that I had no right to reveal that secret, that I'd destroyed a wedding to make a point. Jess hasn't spoken to me since. My mum says I betrayed her. Even Kyle said I could have picked a better time, but I don't know. Was I really supposed to sit there and let my dad be humiliated like that? Let him be publicly erased, discarded like he was never a father at all? Was I really the a-hole for letting the truth come out, a truth he deserved to know, so read it? Am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for throwing my wife's son out of our house after what he did to my daughter? Throwaway account. But honestly, I don't care anymore if this gets back to people. The damage is done, and I feel like I'm standing in the wreckage. Go of what used to be my family, wondering if I was wrong for taking a stand. I, 44M, married my wife, Erica, 42F, 6 years ago. We were both single parents, me with a daughter, Lily, now 17, and her with a son, Jason, now 18. Our kids were pre-teens when we met. We waited a couple years to blend households, and I thought we were doing everything right. Family counseling, shared vacations, establishing rules and structure, making sure no one felt like the outsider. But underneath all that, Jason never really accepted us. Or me, or especially Lily. At first it was small stuff. He'd exclude her when his friends came over, tease her about her clothes, call her try hard or attention seeker. I chalked it up to sibling friction and told him to cut it out. Erica always brushed it off. He's a teenage boy, he doesn't mean it. But I watched Lily grow quieter, more guarded. By the time she was 14, she'd started avoiding the living room when Jason was home. She'd spend most of her time in her room or at her best friend's house. I confronted Erica again. She said I was being dramatic. He's a good kid. She's just sensitive. It wasn't until last year, when Lily was 16 and Jason was 17, that I realized something deeper was going on. One night I came home from work late and overheard Jason on a video call with a group of his friends. He had his door open, headphones in, and didn't see me standing in the hallway. I heard him laughing, saying, "Dude, I swear she wants me. She looks at me like she's begging for it. My stepsister's a freak." I froze. He was talking about Lily. I didn't even know what to do. I walked away, heart pounding, nauseated. The next morning I confronted him. He denied it, said I must have misheard, then doubled down and said Lily was the one who acts weird. I didn't believe him, but Erica begged me not to escalate it. She said Jason was just being a dumb teenage boy, and I should let it go. But I didn't. I sat Lily down and asked her gently if Jason had ever made her feel uncomfortable. She looked me dead in the eye and asked, "Do you actually want the truth or just the version you can live with?" That's when she told me everything. He'd walk into the bathroom when she was in there. He'd take her clothes from the laundry and hide them. He once filmed her while she was asleep and sent it to his friend with a caption like "Sleeping Beauty." She found out because one of the friend's girlfriends told her. She'd begged him to stop, but he'd just smirk and say she was being too sensitive. When she told her mom once, Erica had apparently told her, "Jason wouldn't do that." You probably misunderstood. I lost it. I confronted Erica. She cried. She said she didn't know it was that bad. She begged me not to tear the family apart. I said the family was already broken. I told Jason to pack his things and leave. I didn't scream. I didn't threaten him. I just said, "You don't live here anymore. You made this place unsafe for your stepsister. Get out." He laughed like it was a joke until he saw I wasn't bluffing. Erica went ballistic. She said I was overreacting, that I threw away her son like garbage, that teen boys do dumb stuff. It doesn't mean they're evil. I asked her what kind of mother ignores her daughter being harassed under her roof. She slapped me. Jason went to stay with Erica's parents. They're furious with me too. They said I kicked out a kid with no warning, that I should have gotten therapy instead of going nuclear. It's been 3 months. Erica moved into a rental with Jason. We're separated, probably heading for divorce. Lily and I live alone now. She's happier, brighter. I see it in how she walks around the house again without headphones. She even bakes again, something she stopped doing years ago. But I'm getting messages. Erica's sister, Jason's dad, old mutual friends. They say I destroyed a blended family, that boys make mistakes, that I chose one child over the other. But it was never about choosing. It was about protecting. Lily is my daughter, my actual daughter, and no one else seemed willing to do it. Still, I've lost my wife. The family we tried to build is shattered. I'm tired, confused, and starting to wonder, was I too harsh? Should I have handled it differently? So, Reddit, am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for exposing my brother's secret to his fiancée after he sabotaged my relationship out of jealousy? I, 33M, have debated posting this for weeks, but I'm still reeling from everything that happened, and I genuinely don't know if I crossed a line. I feel like I blew up someone's life, but only because they first burned mine to the ground. So I come from a pretty standard middle-class family. My brother Daniel, 31M, and I were never super close growing up, but we weren't hostile either. He was the golden child, the straight-A student, the athlete, the charming one. I was the quieter, artsy type, good with people, but not someone the family bragged about. Our parents clearly favored him, though they'd never admit it. I think I made peace with that years ago, or at least I thought I had. Daniel and I both ended up in the same city after college. I went into marketing, and he went into finance. We kept in touch casually. Saw each other on holidays, birthdays, occasional brunches, nothing deep. That changed 3 years ago when I met Sophie, 29F. Sophie was, and still is, the most incredible person I've ever met. She's smart, thoughtful, witty, ambitious, and emotionally tuned in a way that made me feel seen like never before. We met through a mutual friend at a dinner party, and sparks flew instantly. We were inseparable within a month. She brought color into my life. Everything I thought I knew about love and partnership got rewritten with her. We dated for about a year before I introduced her to my family, including Daniel. At that dinner, he was charming as always, too charming. The way he looked at Sophie, the way he hovered, the backhanded compliments, the constant finding excuses to insert himself into our conversations. It made my skin crawl. I asked Sophie afterward if she noticed anything. She said she did, but brushed it off as him being one of those guys who needs to be the center of attention. After that dinner, Daniel suddenly wanted to hang out more. He invited me to bars, trivia nights, pick-up basketball, things he'd never really done before. At first I thought he was trying to be a better brother, but over time I realized he was always subtly trying to undermine my relationship. He'd say things like, "Man, Sophie's way out of your league," or "Do you ever worry she's just with you until someone better comes along?" Always in a joking tone, always with a smirk. I told him to knock it off. He'd pretend to back off, then do it again the next week. Then last summer, Sophie's ex resurfaced briefly. She told me about it right away. He messaged her on Instagram trying to reconnect. She shut him down instantly and even showed me the messages. It wasn't a big deal to me. I trusted her completely. But somehow Daniel found out. A few weeks later, he told my mum that Sophie had been cheating with her ex. My mum, being my mum, immediately called me crying. When I told her it was a lie, she admitted Daniel had said he overheard it from someone. I confronted him. He denied it, said maybe someone else told her and she just assumed it was me. But I could see it in his face. He was proud of the damage. That was when Sophie told me something I'll never forget. "Your brother gives me the creeps." I didn't want to say anything earlier, but he DM'd me twice. Just vague stuff. "Hey, hope you're doing okay and we should catch up sometime." I never responded. I thought maybe I was overreacting, but now I think he's obsessed with making you look small. I was livid. I told my parents everything. They told me not to start drama, said Daniel was just awkward with boundaries. I said no. He was calculated, cruel, and actively trying to ruin my relationship. After that, I cut him off. Fast forward to this year. Sophie and I got engaged in February. Best day of my life. We posted the announcement on Instagram. Hours later, I get a text from Daniel. Congrats. Hope it lasts. That was it. No emoji, no call, no card. Then, out of nowhere in March, he announces he's getting married in August to a woman named Madison, 28F, none of us had ever heard of. He brings her to Easter brunch and acts like we've all known her forever. She's sweet, kind, clearly intelligent, and totally unaware of who Daniel really is. And that's when I found out the truth. Sophie's best friend, Clara, is a freelance graphic designer who occasionally works with people in Madison's company. One day, Clara tells Sophie, "Hey, I think your fiancé's brother is dating one of my clients." Small world curious, Sophie looks up Madison on LinkedIn, then on Instagram. And then she finds it. A private alt account Madison uses to post more personal behind-the-scenes stuff. Sophie only found it because Madison tagged her dog's name and Sophie remembered it from brunch. One of the posts, dated back to December, 2 months before Daniel's engagement announcement, is a screenshot of a text thread between Madison and her friend that says, "Daniel says he can't go public yet because there's some family drama, but he promised he's almost done with the other relationship. I know it sounds crazy, but I believe him." Another one says, "He said he's ending things with that older woman this week. He said she was clingy and he didn't want to hurt her." Sophie showed me everything. My stomach dropped. Daniel had been cheating, stringing along some older woman, even as he got engaged to Madison. And if the dates are right, he didn't just lie. He emotionally manipulated both of them. I sat on the information for a week. I didn't want to get involved. But then I thought about everything he did to me and Sophie, all the poison he spread, how he tried to torpedo my relationship out of jealousy, how he smeared Sophie's name to our family, and I thought, no, I'm not letting him build a marriage on the same lies he tried to use to destroy mine. So I sent Madison an anonymous email. Nothing dramatic. Just, "You don't know me, but I think you should take a closer look at the timeline of your fiancé's relationships. Start by asking him who he was seeing last December. You deserve the truth," she read it. I know, because the very next day Daniel called me in a rage, screaming, swearing. "What the hell did you do? Why would you do this to me?" I stayed, calm, and just said, "Now you know what it feels like to have someone set fire to your life." He screamed that I was dead to him, said I ruined his future, that he loved Madison, and now she was gone. I asked him why he didn't love her enough to stay faithful. He hung up. The wedding was called off. Madison apparently confronted him, and he admitted parts of it. She walked. His reputation in our family is in shambles. Our mum still defends him, but our dad quietly told me, "I'm not proud of him." But now, everyone's treating me like the nuclear bomb, like I went too far, like I crossed a moral line by interfering. Even Sophie asked me if maybe I should have let it. "Can we already had our peace?" she said. "We're getting married. Why open up someone else's wounds?" I don't know, maybe she's right, but I couldn't let him win. I couldn't let him smile and toast and pretend he was the perfect groom when he's been a two-faced liar. For years, I couldn't stand the idea of Madison tying her life to someone like that without knowing what he's capable of. So, Reddit, am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for destroying my sister's marriage after she made my daughter believe I was dead? I, 37F, have kept this inside for almost 2 years. My life was ripped apart by someone who was supposed to love me, and when I finally got a sliver of justice, the fallout was so massive that now I'm the villain in everyone's eyes. I don't even know how to feel about it anymore. I need to know if I went too far, or if this was simply a reckoning. This starts years ago. I was 19 when I found out I was pregnant with my daughter, Lena. Her father, Aaron, ghosted me 2 months in. I was young, broke, and terrified. My parents were barely making ends meet, so the person who stepped up was my older sister, Marla, then 25. She was the golden child, married early to a successful tech guy, didn't go to college, but still managed to open her own wellness studio and make bank. She lived in a huge house, hosted family events, did everything right. I was always the mess, the mistake, the one who needed help. But Marla shocked me. She said she'd help me raise Lena. "We're in this together," she told me. "I'll make sure you both have a future." And for the first 2 years of Lena's life, she was incredible. Paid for diapers, food, even helped me get into night school while she watched Lena a few nights a week. She let us live in her guest room. For free. She called me her baby sister soldier. I was so grateful. I cried sometimes just watching her play peekaboo with Lena. Then, when Lena was almost 3, things started to shift. Marla's husband, Jake, became distant, cold. He used to greet me with a smile, but suddenly he avoided eye contact, barely spoke, and made weird comments like, "Some people take too much without giving back." I asked Marla what was going on, and she brushed it off as him being stressed from work. I offered to move out. She insisted I stay. But something felt off. In the spring of 2014, Marla sat me down and said she wanted to take Lena for the weekend to their lake house so I could catch up on school and rest. I was hesitant, but she was so persuasive, said it'd just be a fun weekend with her and Jake. I agreed. That was the last time I saw Lena for 4 years. On Monday, I texted Marla asking when they'd be home. No reply. I called straight to voicemail. Panic rising, I drove to her house, empty. I tried the lake house, locked. I called hospitals. Nothing. Then I got a text. You're not safe for Lena. She's staying with me. Don't come looking. Or I'll go to the police. I thought it was a prank, a cruel joke. I called again. Nothing. I drove to the police station, frantic, shaking, screaming. They told me there was no custody order, that it was a civil matter. They advised me to contact a lawyer. I had no money. I was working part-time and barely covering gas. I was drowning. Over the next few weeks, I tried everything. I begged Marla. I cried on her voicemail. I wrote letters. I showed up at her studio. She had me banned. Then a formal restraining order came in the mail claiming I was unwell, erratic, and a danger to my child. She used my old depression diagnosis against me, said I was unstable. I couldn't afford a legal battle. She had power, influence, and money. I had nothing. And so I broke. I fell into the darkest hole imaginable. I couch-surfed. I drank. I spiraled. I felt like a ghost walking through the world. People stopped asking where Lena was. Friends drifted. My own parents sided with Marla. She's doing what's best, they said. I was told to work on myself. They treated it like I had a temporary flu, not like I'd lost my entire world. In 2018, I got sober. Therapy, 2 jobs, and eventually my own apartment. I never stopped thinking about Lena, never stopped looking at old pictures, but I stopped hoping. Then, in late 2020, I got a Facebook message from a burner account. I think I'm your daughter. Please tell me I'm not crazy. Attached was a photo of Lena at around age 10, holding a handmade birthday card addressed to Mommy Marla. My heart cracked wide open. We messaged all night. She told me Marla had always said her birth. Mom died in a car crash. Lena only found out the truth when she overheard an argument between Marla and Jake. She started digging. Found my name. Found old letters I'd sent. Marla had hidden everything. Lena had gone to the school counselor and said she wanted to talk to the dead lady. That's how deep the lie ran. When I saw her again, she was 13. Taller, wiser, quieter. We hugged for 5 minutes. She kept whispering, I knew you were real. Over the next few months, we rebuilt slowly. Lena started visiting me secretly, then more openly, then full weekends. She begged me not to confront Marla, said she'd handle it. But then, she showed me Marla's journals. Yeah, journals. Lena had found Marla's wellness diaries, manifestation, journals she used to process her power. They were full of unhinged garbage about me being a vortex of chaos, a womb thief, and a karmic test. She wrote about how stealing Lena saved her marriage, how sacrificing blood was necessary, and how I didn't deserve motherhood. There was an entry about Lena being too soft like her mother, and how she might have to break her down to rebuild her properly. I saw red. I made copies of everything, and I sent them, every page, every time-stamped photo, to Jake. Week later, Marla's entire life exploded. Jake filed for divorce. He left her the next day. Apparently, he hadn't known the full extent of her deception. He believed I was unstable, sure, but he thought I'd willingly abandoned Lena. He was horrified. Their studio shut down within months after people found out. Not from me, but people talk. Marla went ballistic, called me screaming, said I had no right, that I'd poisoned Lena, that I destroyed her empire, that I was a parasite, who couldn't build anything of my own, so I had to steal back what I threw away. Lena chose to stay with me permanently. She's almost 17 now. We're close, but she's still in therapy, still unpacking years of emotional manipulation. Sometimes she cries in her sleep. Sometimes she flinches when I say, it's okay. Our parents disowned me, said I fractured the family beyond repair, that I should have let sleeping dogs lie, that at least Lena had a good life, and I stole it from her. Marla tells everyone I brainwashed Lena, that I rose from the grave to destroy her, but the truth, I'm still grieving. Grieving years I'll never get back, milestones I missed, hugs I never gave, laughter I never heard, but I don't regret what I did. I just wonder, am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for exposing my husband's entire family's secret at our daughter's wedding, ruining their lives, but finally freeing mine? I know how this will sound. Vindictive, melodramatic, the stuff of soap operas and badly written thrillers. I wish it were. I wish I'd made it up or exaggerated some details, but I didn't. I lived it. I survived it. And now that the smoke has cleared, I honestly don't know if I'm the villain of this story, or just the only person with the guts to finally say what everyone else kept buried for decades. I'm 56F. My husband, ex-husband now, is 59M. We were married for 35 years. Together since we were 18 and 21, respectively. Childhood friends turned high school sweethearts. Everyone thought we were the perfect small-town couple who made it. And for a long time, I thought we were too. We built a life. Had 3 kids, Anna, 34F, Michael, 31M, and Lily, 28F. We lived in a lovely house in New England, had Sunday dinners, took family vacations, and were active in our church. People admired us, envied us, wanted to be us, but they didn't see what I saw. Or maybe they did. And they just didn't want to deal with it. Let me start with the most important part. I loved my children more than anything. I still do. They were my whole world. Every decision I made for them, including the decision to stay silent. But silence has a price. The first fracture happened in 1997. I was 28, and Lily had just been born. My husband, let's call him James, was going on more and more business trips. He was working for his father's construction firm, doing accounting and project management, a decent job if not glamorous. But the trips didn't make sense. They were always vague, sudden, and he never came back tired. One night, he forgot to log out of his email. I saw messages, hundreds of them, with his cousin, Karen. Except, Karen wasn't his cousin. She was his half-sister, illegitimate daughter of his father from an affair no one acknowledged, raised in another town, rarely mentioned, only tolerated at family reunions. The emails weren't platonic. They were romantic, graphic, ongoing. I confronted him. He cried, swore it was a mistake, said it had started when they were teens, that it had always been confusing, that no one really treated them like siblings, that it was emotional, not physical. Then he said he'd stop. He begged me to stay for the kids. I was 28, with 3 kids under 7, dependent financially, humiliated, terrified, and I believed him. Or I chose to believe him, because the alternative would shatter everything, so I stayed, and buried it. But I watched. Oh, I watched like a hawk, and what I saw was rot, hidden in smiles and family photos. Karen was always around, at birthdays, holidays, graduations, always standing too close to James, always exchanging long, silent glances. And then in 2004, everything collapsed again. That's when Anna, our eldest, started dating Ryan. He was a sweet boy, respectful, a little awkward, from a family a few towns over. But James hated him, irrationally, viscerally. He forbade Anna from seeing him, screamed, threatened to cut her off. I thought it was just overprotective father nonsense, until Anna, through tears, told me Ryan was Karen's son. My blood ran cold. James knew. He knew exactly who Ryan was, and I put it all together in an instant. Ryan was 19, born in 1985, when James and Karen were both 19. I remembered that year. James had gone camping for a few weeks. Karen moved out of state temporarily. I never connected it until that moment. But I saw the truth as clearly as if someone had screamed it in my face. James was Ryan's father, which meant our daughter had been dating her half-brother. I confronted James. He broke down, admitted it, said he thought Karen had aborted the baby, said he didn't know Ryan existed until recently, that he tried to steer Anna away for her own protection. I was sick, physically ill. I wanted to scream it from the rooftops, but I didn't, because Anna was already heartbroken, because Michael and Lily were still in school, because if this came out, it would destroy everything. So again, I stayed, and we agreed on a lie. James had mental health issues, and that's why he overreacted. Anna and Ryan broke up soon after anyway, and he moved away for college. Crisis averted, or so I thought. Fast forward to 2023. Anna got engaged to Elijah, a kind, intelligent man from NYC. They were planning a beautiful outdoor wedding. And James? James suddenly wanted Karen involved, badly. He insisted she be part of the ceremony. Give a reading, be listed in the program, even help plan things. Anna was confused but compliant. Karen, of course, eagerly agreed. I'd had enough. The years had eroded my fear and replaced it with bitterness. Bitterness at the decades I'd spent protecting a man who destroyed every boundary of decency. Bitterness at a family who enabled him. Bitterness at myself, most of all. And so the night before the wedding, after the rehearsal dinner, I made my choice. I took the microphone during the speeches. Everyone thought I was going to give a sweet mother of the bride toast. What I gave instead was the truth. I told the entire room about James and Karen, about the years of lies, about Ryan, about Anna unknowingly dating her half-brother, about the cover-ups, about the sickness festering behind our perfect family image. I spared no one, not even myself. People screamed, cried. Chairs were knocked over. Anna ran out of the room sobbing. Michael stared at me like he didn't recognize me. Lily threw up. James tried to grab the mic from me, but I held it like it was my last weapon on earth. Karen collapsed in a chair and started wailing. And I felt for the first time in 35 years, free. The wedding was cancelled. Anna didn't speak to me for months. She moved in with friends and cut off both James and Karen. Ryan somehow reached out, said he'd had a suspicion but never confirmed it. He's in therapy now. Michael and Lily are torn. They say I should have handled it better, that I humiliated everyone. My in-laws are apoplectic. James moved out. We're finalizing the divorce. My church ostracized me. I've lost friends. My community thinks I've lost my mind, but for the first time I sleep soundly. No more lies, no more secrets, no more protecting monsters. Still, everyone keeps asking, was I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for revealing my parents' darkest secret and ruining 3 generations of my family? I, 36F, have never told anyone this story outside of therapy, and even then, it was only because I was on the edge of a breakdown. What? I did set off a chain reaction that split my family in ways I don't think will ever be repaired. I didn't mean to destroy everything. I meant to finally bring truth to light after decades of lies, but maybe I went too far. It all started with a funeral. My grandfather died 2 years ago. He was 87 and lived a long, respected life. He was the kind of man who built his own house, took pride in his garden, and taught me how to fish when I was little. To most of the family, he was Papa Jack, gruff but fair, loyal, old school, and dependable. But to me, he was always a mystery. Something about him never sat right. I grew up with this strange sense that something was off in our family. Secrets whispered behind closed doors. My mom, Claire, 63F, was the youngest of 3 kids. Her older siblings, David, 65M, and Martha, 68F, always treated her weird, like she wasn't really one of them. Family photos from the 60s and 70s always showed a gap, like there was something missing or added. Anyway, we gathered at Papa Jack's house after the funeral for what was supposed to be a small private wake. That's when the fire started. Not literal fire, figurative. We were going through Papa's things and I found this old metal box tucked behind a false wall in his garage. My cousin, Noelle, and I thought it was a stash of old letters or war, a memorabilia. Instead, we found photographs, documents, and a handwritten letter addressed to my youngest daughter, Claire. Noelle handed it to me. "You should give this to your mum." I wish I had. But I read it. I'll never forget the first line. "You were never meant to be raised by me." I read the letter 3 times, each time slower. My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped it. What it revealed was this. My mother, Claire, wasn't Papa Jack's daughter. She was the result of an affair my grandmother had in 1960 with her best friend's husband. The man's name was Russell, a married black man in a very white, very conservative town. When my grandmother got pregnant, her friend found out and threatened to expose everything. She died in a car crash 2 months later. Jack knew the baby wasn't his. He even described Claire as a reminder of betrayal. But when his wife died suddenly during childbirth, he couldn't bring himself to abandon the baby. He raised her but never loved her. In his words, "I did my duty, that's all." He kept this secret from everyone, even his other children, even Claire. I sat in that dusty garage with the letter clutched in my hand, feeling like I'd stepped into a different universe. Everything made sense now, why my mom was always treated like an outsider. Why Papa Jack was cold toward her even when she was a child. Why my uncles and aunts looked at her like she was a guest in the family, not blood. I should have left it there. But I didn't. I went straight to my mother that night and gave her the letter. She laughed at first. Then she read it. Then she turned pale. I watched something inside her collapse. She whispered, "I knew it. I always knew it." For the next hour, she sobbed harder than I've ever seen her cry. She kept repeating, "She loved me. She loved me. She would have taken me." I asked who she meant. That's when she told me. She had faint memories of another woman, her mother's best friend. A kind face, a gentle voice. She remembered playing on a porch swing with a woman who smelled like lavender. She always thought it was a dream. Turns out it wasn't. What followed was a full unraveling. My mom, devastated, demanded answers from her siblings. David called her a liar. Martha accused her of smearing Dad's legacy. When I showed them the letter and the documents, they exploded. Martha screamed at me in front of the whole family. "How dare you dig into things that don't concern you? That man raised you," I shot back. "That man emotionally abused your sister for 60 years. Everything escalated from there. My mom had a DNA test done, and it confirmed what the letter said. She shared no paternal DNA with David or Martha. She was crushed, but also freed. In a weird way, she finally had something that made her whole life make sense. I thought the worst was over. I was wrong. My cousin Noelle ended up telling her father, my uncle David, that she also planned to get tested. He forbade it. She did it anyway. Turns out she wasn't his biological daughter either. Her mother, David's wife, had an affair back in the 80s, and Noelle was the result. David disowned her, flat out refused to speak to her ever again, said she was polluted by lies. One secret set off a domino effect of truth, and it kept going. Martha's son, James, called me and said he remembered overhearing an argument between his parents when he was a kid. Something about keeping Claire out of the will because she wasn't blood. He always wondered why Martha was obsessed with family bloodlines. Now he knew. My grandmother's best friend, the woman who died in the car crash. A few people. Now believe it wasn't an accident. There were rumors she was run off the road, no proof, just whispers. But once that came up, the entire family imploded. Now here's where people started turning on me. My Uncle David told my mom this entire mess was my fault, that I should have burned the letter, that it wasn't my place, that I dug up a grave and danced on it. Even my mom, after months of therapy and tears, sometimes looks at me like she doesn't know whether to hug me or slap me. My extended family barely speaks to me anymore. At the next family gathering I dared attend, my cousin's wedding, I was referred to loudly as the one who tore the whole tree out by the roots. I left early and haven't been invited to anything since, but I can't make myself feel bad. My mother deserved to know the truth. Noelle deserved to know who she really was. And if the rest of them were hiding behind lies, is it really my fault? The truth broke them. Still, the weight of it all sits on my chest some nights. Did I go too far? Should I have just walked away from that letter? Am I the a-hole?